Ready? Okay. So thank you all for coming. This is a group effort, collective collaboration, right? We've been working with, talking to each other for months, years, and in some cases decades. And we just welcome you on Dr. King's birthday for this roundtable talk. I'm going to introduce you briefly to Alex Gebreb. We brought him on this year as our small business navigator. He does some coach. He's going to just give a quick brief of how we help small businesses. He will introduce Mr. Washington and then
kind of like in the Senate, I yield to my good friend who's going to buy me lunch later.
Yeah, no problem.
You got that?
Hey, we got to hold up for a second. We just got a celebrity walk in the house. Y'all don't know this lady down here. Okay, would you introduce this lady that just walked in this door?
This is Kimberly Moreland, who is the recipient of the drum.
Hey, let's get a round of applause. So you thought I didn't see you way over there, didn't you?
I'm sorry. That's okay.
Okay, guys, thank you for coming this morning. My name is Alex Gebreb. I'm the business navigator here. I help our small businesses with just about everything. Anything from figuring out how to set up a small business all the way to if you've already got a business that's up and running and you need complicated things like bigger lending or maybe a big building or something like that, just more grassroots oriented. I worked in banking for about 15 years prior to that. I grew up in this neighborhood and I had an opportunity to come here and apply those skills into my community and the community I grew up in, so that's what I'm here to do today. And we've got a lot of you guys that are here, and I know you guys are all super excited. We've got some questions and some concerns that you guys have had, and this is your opportunity, your platform to be able to ask those. And then you guys all know John. He's our executive director here, and I'm going to let him take it on from here.
Thank you very much, Alex. Hey, you know, the press asked outside, what do I hope to hear from Senator Ron Wyden? And I told them, you know, I've been listening to Senator Wyden for years now, and everything he said I like hearing, so I ain't got to ask him what he's going to say what I need to hear. But Senator Wyden has been our champion in our district, and I want you people to know that. You know, this man has worked with us tirelessly. He's showed up at our events. He's done a number of things to support us. And so I'd like to take this, basically I'm honored to have Senator Wyden to stop into our small little house and to maybe just participate with you folks on just this level that just is person to person, mano to mano. So we appreciate Senator Wyden. Did y'all give him a hand on this day?
I understand that everybody really like it if I talk for about 45 minutes.
No. Yeah. Hey, look, y'all need to ask him some questions. Y'all need to get that out of him right now before it gets out of here.
Not going to happen, this speech, okay? Let me give you about 3 minutes worth, and then we'll just kind of go right there. And first, big round of applause to Fawn and Mr. Washington. They're doing a terrific job. And I'm very pleased that the two of them were kind of riding point when Senator Merkley and I were able to secure $750,000.
Oh, I didn't talk about that part of it, Ron, but thank you very much.
Seoul District Business Association. And look, I think we all know that this is a time as we celebrate Dr. King when we really reflect on where we ought to go and what we care about the most. And the reality is, in this community, and it's often true in so much Oregon, small business is the ball game. You know, you can take in the metro area a handful of big businesses and that's it. You know, Fred Meyer, Intel, and the like. And the reason I wanted to come today is I was thinking last night about Dr. King's timeless counsel. And he said, no person has the right to rain on your dreams. And that sure as heck sums it up for small business folks, because we know that ignorance and bias and so many obstacles can show up and keep you from being able to realize your dream of having a prosperous small business operation. And right now we're pulling together ideas for small businesses for the session. And so I just will wrap up by saying that's what I want to do. I came today with my pen, so I'm going to do a lot of writing. And in particular, what we're looking at is trying to help our small businesses get more realistic write-offs, say depreciation. And one of the things that we're looking at there is giving the small business person perhaps a deduction against the payroll tax. Because the payroll tax, I'm seeing some nods up front, all you media folks who want to interview them, this payroll tax is a killer for the small business kind of person. And the reality is, and you see it in the news, we kind of got two tax codes in America. We've got one for people at the top, and they, to a great extent, can pay what they want, when they want to. They show up and tell their accountant, set me up. You all been reading about how you just write off these giant losses and all the rest. And then we have all of you who represent the face, as we say, of American dreams and hopes. And so that's going to be the end of my speech making for the morning. Softball questions particularly welcome. Let's seriously talk about whatever you're interested in. Grace and Tim are here from the office, and for whatever time you all have, no subjects off limits. Let's cover the questions. And Fawn and Mr. Washington, you want to just point to folks and then I'll cover it?
We'll let Alex does it.
Or Alex. Okay,
And then
great.
just remember, you guys, it's over here if you need, just make sure we know who you are and just this basic information before
So
you.
let's just start clockwise, make it easier, and then make our way from there. So, you want to start off with Sam?
Me?
Yep.
First of all, Senator Wyden, thank you so much for showing up. My name is Sam Fowler. I used to be at the Port of Portland. I met you a number of years ago.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, when I was in the fire department. But
Oh, the young guy with rugged good looks.
we both were. But I own a business called Olive or Twist Martini Bar. I've been in business for 17 years. And you've answered my question about the payroll tax. But I think one of the things we're all concerned about is not only the payroll tax, but staffing has always been an issue, and getting access and knowledge about what things are available for industries like us. And so I'll make it really quick. That's like, so you answered my question about the payroll tax. That's what I was going to ask you about.
Great.
So.
Tell me a little bit about this information issue, because I could, for example, and we've been talking about it in the office, I could just start a kind of monthly update on my website, wyden.senate.gov.
Yeah.
Here is the latest on small business kinds of opportunities that we're looking at at the federal level. The best thing about it is, I think if I did it, we might get some of the state folks to, do it as well. Would that be helpful?
Exactly. That would be very helpful, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. If I could have some area to go to and find out what's going on, what's happening, keeping me updated, would be certainly a lot better for my business.
Done. Mr. Leahy is in the house. Where is Mr. Leahy?
Okay.
I think that we just got ourselves a special advisor on how to get the word out for small business people, status in lieu of salary. And seriously, we'll work with you on it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for doing it. I'm glad that, this payroll thing, we're actually looking at it both on depreciation and also, I'm amazed at how many small businesses want a better deal on the research and development tax credit as well. I see some heads nodding on that. The irony is you probably would use a deduction on the depreciation side against payroll, and you probably are more likely to use a credit on the research and development, but that's the kind of thing I'm going to need you all to educate me on. But that's what we really want to do this morning. We got depreciation, we got R&D, and now we got access to information. That's a good shot. When I played basketball in college, if I could hit even one at the beginning, I was happy.
Yeah, but he's still hitting them, y'all. He's still shooting them.
I told Mr. Washington about the little story we put up in the office, the scholarship offer I got from Gonzaga. And Gonzaga is a big basketball powerhouse. I went to Cal. And people say, why is that up there? I said, just wanted to show that a Jewish kid could play with the Jesuits. Next question, everybody. Don't be shy.
And then we'll go to Rodney from King Construction.
Thank you, sir, for getting this. My name is Rodney King. I'm a retired Army veteran. Been out in Portland here for 3 years. One of my mentors is John Washington, and my business is King Construction Enterprises. It's still in development. What it focus is going to be on is waste management and pressure washing, whether it's post or residential or commercial cleaning. I see that there's a need for that in this area for veteran and black-owned business. One of my questions that I have for you, sir, is it was concerned with the recent voting, the ranked choice voting. You know, how do you think that that ranked choice voting will affect the economic development in our districts? And what would change first? Affordable housing development, parking, permitting? Like, what would be the first focus?
I think it'd be too early to tell in terms of which issue might emerge. And I'm looking at ranked choice voting because maybe that's the way to go. I will tell you, sir, that unless we can get overturned a Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, we're still going to see big money calling the shots. Because, folks, Citizens United basically says that the rich person's checkbook is the same thing as the poor person's soapbox. And I just personally think that's silly, because a rich person can buy a whole lot more information and content. So we're looking at ranked choice voting, and we'll keep you apprised of that. Let me ask you something about your contracting business, because the issues on contracting have sort of come at us two different ways. Have you been interested in government contracts?
Yes,
or
I have.
mostly private sector contracts?
I've been interested in government contracts just because I know how the federal government operates, and I could pretty much just focus on pressure washing, and that could be a multi-year, multi-million-dollar federal contract. It's a matter of having the right representation and the team around me. So yes, sir, most definitely.
Well, let's put this in the context during the course of the morning. We're going to look at contracting on both sides, the government side and the private sector side. And I'll tell you, on the government side, the picture is not very pretty. Between 2016 and 2020, less than 1% of the city of Portland's goods and services spending went to minority firms. I think it's pretty obvious that is completely unacceptable, okay? That's just not right. So in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, that was the thing you all heard about in 2021, and we're just now starting to get the word out. You probably saw the president and Mitch McConnell at that big bridge in Kentucky and all the rest. So I and others said that we were going to create a minority business development agency as part of that, so that we could start turning around this unacceptable level of minority business access. And it's under the Department of Commerce, and I think what I'd like to do, Tim, is that you put on a program in conjunction with Fawn and Mr. Washington and Alex. You know, you guys figure out how you want to do it. And what I want to do is walk through for the community all of the opportunities in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and then let's kind of systematically start trying to tap them for our folks here, and I can follow it because the thing's just getting off the ground now. Has anybody been out in the community telling you about the bipartisan infrastructure bill? I don't think so, because I've been doing town meetings around the state, and when I ask, everybody kind of says, not hearing much about that. So we will do that as kind of a program. It'll be arranged by Alex and Fawn and Mr. Washington, and we'll walk through the bipartisan infrastructure fund provisions, and then we'll start going to this minority business development agency under the Department of Commerce. And by the way, the infrastructure law says the number is going to get to 10%.
Oh, wow.
So the Fed's got some lifting to do.
Yeah.
Okay? But I think that, I mean, there hasn't been a bad point in the House, so keep them coming. Those are good. Yes.
Just because Mike has a question relevant to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Right there.
That's a hot topic.
As in this mic?
As in Mr. Beard, yes.
Okay.
So is that my cue?
Yes, so.
My name is Mike Berry. I'm the owner of 9-1 Construction. I'm a full-blooded Native American, and I started my business about 2 years ago. I was in the construction industry about 14 years, okay? And my question is, with the billions of dollars coming into the state for infrastructures and construction projects, how can small minority-owned businesses like mine get a piece of the pie, knowing that I have already been receiving some technical assistance from Business Basics, from Soul District, NAMAC, etc., because it tends to go to businesses more fully resourced?
Well, Mike, to put it bluntly, you're going to kind of be Exhibit A for us. We're going to walk through this darn system. You know, people always say, Ron, will you come out and talk to us? And I say, yeah, sure, I will. But what we want to do is kind of walk people through the system. Like this new office under the Department of Commerce is to ensure Black, Hispanic, and indigenous-owned firms are in a position to get these contracts as part of national infrastructure. So I could come in here and senator types show up in blue suits and red ties and wave their arms around the line. But what I'm going to do with Alex, and we'll invite you to this, is we're going to walk through this, and you can say, hey, Tim, I want to look at this item, check mark. I'm interested in looking at that one. And maybe in 6 months, I'm interested in the other one. But we're going to walk it through. And when I tell people when I'm out here talking about the infrastructure bill, I'm going to please that we got the Soul District money, Senator Merkley, as I tell everybody, I'm going to under-promise and see if I can over-deliver. Okay?
Good, thank you.
All right. But this is a perfect, Alex and Fawn, perfect way to start the meeting, because that's a new program. There's billions of dollars in the bipartisan infrastructure fund bill. It's a good bill. It's bipartisan, by the way. Sometimes back there you can't get Democrats and Republicans to agree to buy a 7-Up. That was a bipartisan bill. And Mike, let us just walk it through, and you tell us which areas you're interested in, and we'll go to work.
All right, we'll continue right back over here.
Again, thank you for being here and inviting me. My name is Marie Edwards-Larkins, and my business is Me Raised on 42nd, which I am a holistic trichologist that I work in the hair loss business. So getting contracts from the government would be great. However, my one question would be, how would, and I'm also a property owner, I own that property, I've been there in 30 years plus now. How do I achieve funding and low interest rates to work on my property? How does that trickle down, or incentives which you covered for employees? So that, we're going to cover that question. So how would we get incentives with low interest loans to work on our property?
Well, there are federal programs, and the one that comes to mind are the ones at the SBA, but that's also part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Now, let me ask another couple of questions. Are you concerned about your local taxes, your property taxes, your state taxes, or your federal taxes, or all three?
All three. And the other statement I'd like to make, all due respect to all minorities, is any of the money's going to be earmarked for Black businesses specifically? Because generally, in the experience when we come in, there is, when it says minorities, that's great, all due respect to everyone, but Blacks get the crumbs from the table if we get anything from the minority pool or people of color.
Yeah. I'm not doing my job if the people in this room are getting crumbs. And that's why the $750,000 for the Soul District Business Association was designed to send a message, is we're not talking crumbs. That was the business association that Senator Merkley and I, after a lot of consideration, singled out. And so you know how we do it. Kind of old story is I'm chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. That's the tax writing committee. And Senator Merkley is an important member of the Appropriations Committee, so they think they ought to be able to spend all the money. And what we say is Oregon's going to do it together. And we took all of the projects from around the state, and I think Fawn, you and Mr. Washington got us the information early. And we said, not going to be able to do this everywhere. but we're going to do it so that small, Black-owned businesses, particularly in Northeast Portland. You know, I've been coming out so many times over the years for Gray Panther senior citizens meetings over here. Played a lot of basketball, you know, over here with Hobsons and stuff like that.
Yeah, I ran into you in
Yeah.
a couple of times. You are in it.
So I'm there. That was designed, ma'am, respectfully, to send a message that the days when small Black-owned businesses around here aren't going to get crumbs. It's going to be a new day. And I'm going to walk you through the tax stuff is a whole world unto itself as it relates to property. In other words, it's complicated enough for individuals. And that's part of the debate you're hearing now about the IRS. But when Tim comes out here, we'll be prepared to talk about federal, state, and local taxes for businesses in the property area, okay?
And with that included,
Please.
as you're putting your package together, that's two statements, but low interest rates for, say, if we wanted just one of the contractors to come out, that's the second thing, to rebuild and work on the property to create growth for our community and bring in more employees.
Yep. The first place I'm going to look, and we should be able to run this down quickly, are the small business side of the house, because that is an actual federal agency that is charged with making capital more affordable. And I think that's really, if I'm getting it right, that's really what's on your mind, right? We're on it.
Thank you.
On it.
Thank you, Senator, for coming out and speaking about us. My question is, of course, before anything, my name is Cassandra Tompkins, and I am solely named about the Body Essentials, and my business is all about organic skin products and healthy skin and wellness. I've been in business for about 3 years. My question is, during the economic trying times, do you have any plans to sustain our business in these times where economic times start to slow down and we don't get the customers that we have going in, or any kind of grants for relief funding?
Well, the bipartisan infrastructure bill is the big flagship for small businesses. I will tell you there are a number of other programs that come to mind that may apply to your business. Are these organic products? Are they certified for health and the like?
Yes.
Well, let me take a look at some of the healthcare rules, because there may be an opportunity with the Food and Drug Administration and the like to give you access to more markets.
Yes.
Also, though, if you're using equipment in the production of your products, the depreciation idea will put money in your pocket. You get a write-off for developing those materials. So on the healthcare side of the house, Food and Drug Administration, there may be other areas. I want to look at the Department of Agriculture is getting more involved in regulation. It still is a little more food than health, and we'll follow that.
And also, I have one more question is platforms, because a lot of business, especially ethnic and business and other nationalities, the platform that we would need is for people to know where we are located. Because when we open a store, you'll get on certain platforms, but it's not prominent. But I can create a platform just for, like, you know how they have the kitten area or whatever for different, but one whole, as a whole, where people can find these businesses and be able to search out for them.
Well, we already talked about trying to set something up to get information out about small businesses in the area. Are you talking about a social media platform?
Yes, where you can be able to find it, be able to put your prominent business on there, and then it's known to people that are looking to find us.
It's a very reasonable request. There are people who are very expert in designing social media platforms Tim, let's see if we can put some of the people who are...
Senator, we're moving in that direction.
You're already going that way?
On the platform, so we can support and align ourselves with where you're going with that.
Good.
We'll get back to you on that. And
Good.
Keep you moving.
Both of you are talking about something very important, and I have a great interest in this. I wrote the law that really laid the foundation for platform use serving businesses. It's called Section 230, and what it stipulated is that the person who posts the content is responsible for the post, not the social media platform. Because we said, how in the world could a small business be responsible for a gazillion postings? And that is often attributed to the growth of small business. And a fellow the other day wrote a law, said Ron Wyden's law on the platforms created $1 trillion worth of wealth in the private economy. My wife owns one of the country's great bookstores, and she saw that article and she sniffed and said, you created $1 trillion worth of wealth? I haven't seen any of it. But the point is, your question is a very good one. And I think that consistent with what we were talking about in terms of the first point, in terms of where people go for information, I think we have enough contacts in the platform business, writing, social media platforms, that Tim and I and Grace can come up with some names of people who would be interested in doing it and would be good and would be reasonably priced. This is a great thing to do for the community, and Mr. Washington already said that they're on it, so it's like...
We're on it. I think one of the biggest and most important transitions, you hear it all over the country now about how media is so faulty, how bad it is, so forth and so on. But what we're saying is we can really convert that media game into a media game that can support small business also. So, and that's what we're doing. That's where we're at.
You have your own fan club. As soon as you walked in, they were on their feet.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all you do for providing. I recently started my business in 2020 after 25 plus years as a public sector urban planner and project manager and community development professional. And I have two questions or two concerns that I experienced as a certified minority woman, small business, and disadvantaged business owner. The procurement process for small business is really overwhelming. It's not really designed for small business owners. When my first contract, and I was really blessed to have with the Oregon Department of Transportation to research the past harms of transportation projects in Region 1. But I had to get $2 million of auto liability, almost $1 million of general liability. And it's, and I already have insurance, and I don't have office space. I have, I work from my home, and it happened during the pandemic, so it wasn't a lot of driving. So I think it's, the procurement process at the state level is not really designed for the small business owner. And
Are you saying the state level specifically, or the federal and local too? Or?
I haven't have experience with the federal, but the state I do. And also I was on the other end of a local procurement when I would help contractors access funds with Prosper Portland. And they had a difficult time too with the procurement process, even at the local level. And it can be very daunting, and it could be a barrier for growth. And another issue I have is capacity building. I hired an intern with the Workforce Center, and they paid a majority of the salary, but I liked her so much I decided to hire her. Well, that's when I got in trouble with the payroll taxes, and through my ignorance of about the state transit tax, I was penalized so much that this year I had to pay 80% of the amount of her income because with penalties. And I know with my ignorance of not knowing about not hiring a payroll like Gusco and
ADT, some of you got familiar with those. They really, when I did hire them, they really kind of helped me and, and completed those filings for me. But I missed like one quarter. And so I think it'd be great to help small business understand the payroll taxes. So I was really glad you opened with that because we want to help, we want to hire the small business owners. We're kind of the highest. We hire more people.
You're it.
We really help them.
Look at the streets, they're small business.
Yeah, we help a lot of, we help the economy, but through we have to help us build the capacity to avoid having to pay those penalties.
The number of horror stories I've gotten about procurement is just staggering. And each level of government has its own kind of process. And as a general rule, it's kind of regarded the United States Senator doesn't go in there and tell everybody about, state stuff and all the rest. But I've had to intervene twice on state things because I thought it was out of hand. You probably saw, in the first couple of months of the pandemic where people didn't have the money to pay their rent and buy groceries, Oregon was having all these problems with the unemployment system, and people would call and you couldn't get a check out. So I called for that person to be replaced, and they were. And here recently, I was very troubled by these clemency policies because everybody at home was talking to me about crime. And I said, yeah, clemency is, some young person, if they smoke pot or something, absolutely. But not somebody who's committed premeditated murder. He shot a woman in the head, in the back. So I've been speaking out on that too. So let us, as part of the procurement on the BIF, as it's called, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Fund Bill, give us some examples of the things that have hindered you on the state and local level. By the way, everybody has told me about state things and local taxes. We all voted them. They say, how come there's been no information about them? And then they get a bill saying that, I owe, sounds like $1 gazillion. And lots of people who are lawyers and engineers and stuff call me about that. So as we walk through these kind of procurement policies and the minority contracting, a number of you have already said that. I'm going to try in a diplomatic way to collect the stories at the state and local level and say, hey, look, fix them, or you get out in the community and you talk to people. Because I'm telling you, people are mad, and small businesses shouldn't have to try to hire, because you all don't have the money. You shouldn't have to hire a whole bunch of skilled people to help you carry out your rights.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Next, we got Justin, his partner, Sir Roderick, is back there as well.
Let us check in for a second. Ron, how you doing on time?
We're fine.
Okay, good.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for being here. Very nice to meet you, and thank you, Soul District, for inviting us. My name is Justin Khalifa, and I'm originally from Ghana. I came here 20 years ago, and I'm a nurse in Momo County Health Department. I've been with them for the past 12 years. We just got on the COVID project, and I'm working on that.
So you're a nurse with the, good for you. Folks, this is the face of an urgent need for America. We do not have enough healthcare workers. Let's give this young person a big round of applause. I'm telling you, this is not the prime topic today. I've got a big push on for more healthcare staff. Thank you. Good on you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm currently with Franklin High School providing healthcare services to students and making sure that, they get all the healthcare needs.
What kind of services do you provide the students at Franklin?
So we do preventive healthcare. We do, what's that called? Plan B, and we do just normal checkup, and then they come in with different reasons. It's just a multiple of things.
Can you, sir, make a mental health referral if you feel that a young person, because I'm seeing this, numbers are massive, can you make a referral to a mental health person? And if so, how's that working?
Yeah, that's been happening, and we partner with the health department itself, and then in the community as well. And so what we do is we put in the referral, and then the health department would then take care of it. So we have a huge behavioral team that works on that, and I hear that there's been an increase in that department to help with the needs. Because it looks
Going
like,
through the roof.
yes, because it looks like there's a lot of need recently with all the school shootings that are happening to gun violence.
Are you finding, sir, when you see a young person as part of the good work you're doing at Franklin with a mental health issue, you refer it to the health department? Does that student come around later and say, I got some help?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, it's a one network situation whereby we,
Are you available to run the federal government?
Yes, please.
What a capable young fellow.
Thank you so much. And so I do Chasing the American Dream. So my friend here, Roderick Edison, Roderick Edwards. I want to make sure I pronounce his name correctly. Otherwise, once we leave, I'll be in trouble. So Roderick Edwards.
He looks like a good guy. It won't be the biggest problem in America. Go ahead.
Great guy. Yes, he's a great guy. So we partnered together, and then we are opening a shop called Cafe United. So it's already in operation. It's called Floyd Old Town Coffee at the moment, but we're going to rebrand and change it into Cafe United, where we're going to serve, it's on downtown 3rd and Coach. We're going to serve coffee, tea, pastries, beer, and wine. And then we aim to bring the racial and cultural divide between people by creating an inclusive, fun and healing learning environment for all customers. So we just want to give back to our community and bring people together with everything that's happening. Do you have anything to say?
Well, you got a bunch of witnesses. I'll be the first to come on down and put a few dollars in the pot.
Oh, it's
so to speak. Seriously, on a serious note, that relates to the point you talked about, where you would, on a timely basis, update the list of small businesses in the community, and we could get the word out. In other words, that was the very first point that your friend made at the beginning, is getting the word out. So let's use you as an example as you're getting on the feet. It's one thing to have your senator come put a few bucks in. It's another thing to get the word out, and we'll work on it.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So our question to you is, does the state have any plans to partner up with the city of Portland or county to address some of the many issues that are plaguing downtown businesses?
Yeah. You probably know, since you work on this, that in the Recovery Act, I was able to secure $1 billion with a B. Sometimes I pinch myself for programs to allow mental health and law enforcement to work together on the streets. And as you probably know, since you work in the field, this is a model that was developed really in Eugene called Cahoots. That's the name of the law. It builds on Portland street response that we've started. I feel very strongly that if there's one thing we could do, downtown, is we could show the world that we're making the streets safer because mental health people and law enforcement work together. And people say, Ron, how do you do this? I said, I know government always makes this so phenomenally complicated, but the real goal here is you get a call coming in. And on one end of the call is police, and on the other end of the call is mental health. Now, if some person is out in the community and they're shooting guns off right and left, that's police. But if the person is clearly having a mental health challenge, that's mental health. And so this money has now been authorized and funded. It's there. We're working with the new governor to get that money out. I think it's a chance to add money to what we're doing in the metro areas, and it'll give Oregon a chance to make us the model for the country. And there's plenty of other things we need to do, downtown. But that's one that I've been able to secure funds for that is being set in motion now.
Senator Wyden, perhaps that would be an opportunity similar to Mike at 9 New Construction to get folks like these guys involved directly with the mental health and the police force. And because if they don't know how to activate or use it or call, you know, they should be walked through that system too.
Fawn, that is way too logical for the federal government. But I think we should do that. We should, for the businesses, we should walk everybody through what this new law is focused on, how we're going to, in effect, strengthen what's called the Portland Street Response Program. The city and the council apparently wants to have more money for it, but the $1 billion is now possible to get through the Medicaid program, health and law enforcement working hand in hand, so that we can say we're doing more than, you know, given a lot of rhetoric and sort of baiting, you know, one group or another, but say we got these two, we're in a position to do something serious about the streets and homelessness in particular.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So next we're gonna go with outside, but then right after, David, I just saw you walking, and then we'll go to Mary and then loop it back around this way.
Gotta get around a minute.
Yeah, well, that's why I said we'll loop it back around this way. So we'll get,
Okay, my name is Kasai Gabriel. I'm from Eritrea.
Where are you from?
There you go, that was the problem.
That's all right. I'm just interested. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. I was going to ask how many of you know where Eritrea is located?
I do. Eastern Africa. Eastern Africa.
I just couldn't hear the name.
Eritrea.
Oh, sure.
Eritrea.
Yeah, good.
Well,
Very
I
good. Yeah.
personally immigrated from Eritrea to the United States back in 1986. I've been working hard, and I just created a little bit real estate business. It's so funny. I own a building up on MLK in Boba. So when I saw the address, wow, that's not too far from where I am, and I was so happy about that. But I'm here today not to talk about what I'm doing here. I'm representing the Eritrean Community Association of Oregon. We created this community back on the 80s, early 80s, and we still running that community. That we started immigrating to Portland around 10, 20 people back then on the 80s, but now that number is growing. It's over 3,000 people. And the funny thing is every Eritrean is registered as a Democrat. 99.9 vote actually for Senator.
I'm going to pass on politics.
So, but we work hard to organize this community, and we just collect money from all these members. We bought a small building on Alberta and 10th. I think some of you might see this building. But as you see, Alberta is becoming very crowded, very crowded. We have a lot of little kids, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. They don't have a playground to play. They can't run around that building. We always have to work. They don't get hit by cars and all that. And we try to move from that building, and we don't have a source of money. We can't just move from that building, buy a bigger space. So, but what we lost there, we don't know how to get the grant. And there is a lot of money somewhere from the federal, from the state, the city of Portland. We don't know how to get in there. We don't know how to get these grants from other big organizations and stuff like this. So we want to move from this building. If there is any way can help us to move from this building and buy a bigger building.
What would you like to do in the building, sir?
What we do there is we gather there at the building.
Would this be childcare?
No. We just have a schooling.
You want to have a school?
We do schooling, yeah.
And where you are now?
Exactly.
And what would you like to do in your new building?
We just want to have too many kids.
Got it. Bigger school.
Bigger schooling. We have a program for middle school, for high school, after school. We have tutors that they came and they come there, help them, a little bit assistant with the scholarship and stuff, and show them one college to go, stuff like that. But we need a bigger building, so we need help on that one. And hopefully you can help us with that.
So, if you think about the words the gentleman used, he was an immigrant. He wants to work hard, and he owns real estate. So you've already shown that you have an interest in doing the kinds of things that we think are part of upward mobility in America. I'm going to have to think about where there might be a source of money for a school. Now, that is traditionally the Department of Education. Grace, are any of the infrastructure bills touching on this? I'm trying to think. One idea that comes to my mind is if you were to be part of something involved in your new building in job training people for jobs, that might be a hook. But from the seat of my pants, I've got to do some checking here with why I was kind of asking what you wanted to do in the building. Senator Merkley, Congressman DeFazio, and I got a significant sum of money for the Y in Eugene to have a major child care facility because there are massive lines, as you all know, for child care. So let me have Grace talk to him. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you. And then we'll go to David, and then we'll make our way back over here at Mary. Oh, you already answered his question? Okay, great. And then we'll go over here to Mary with auto access.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mary. Thank you for being here. And I'm from Ethiopia, and I'm really happy to see an Earth here in person here. Our business name is Access Auto LLC. I'm here on behalf of Bahailu. He wasn't able to make it. And we've been in the auto repair business for about 9 years now, but we moved up to being a dealership back in 2021 because of the car prices went up, and we needed to help our community with buying cars. And we sell used cars, we do mechanic work, we do body work, and it's all-inclusive auto repair shop and dealership. So my question I have for you is how doing away with fossil fuels automobiles will affect the auto sale and repair industries, and what is being put in place to assist small businesses in this industry transition?
It's a very good question, and you hit the magic, word. When you're talking about a transition, that's different than a light switch. This is going to take some time to, think through, and obviously the transition to greener fuels is already going on. So start me off, because I wrote the bill on the clean energy tax credit, biggest investment in fighting climate in history, $280 billion. What kind of cars are coming to your shop now, and what is it they're asking you to help them with?
Right now, it's gas, and then there are hybrid vehicles, but we're planning to move to electric vehicles, but we need to train our employees, and we need to train ourselves how to work with those, and
training particularly in the electric space.
Yeah, in the electric space.
I'm convinced that a significant chunk of job training money should go to training to deal with electric vehicles, because I'm starting to get this, consistently, and I'm just starting to get into it. But I wrote the provision on electric cars, and we tried to come up with some ideas that would reflect the good point you're talking about, which is we got to have a transition. You're not going to do this in, let's say a light switch, like this. So, for example, I suspect that a lot of young people are going to say, I don't have the money to go buy a new electric vehicle today, but I think I'm going to be able to get a used one. And we worded it, the tax credits and the like, to give some extra help for used vehicles. And I'm seeing you nod your head, so you've already read that part of the law. But that was kind of one of my ideas, is that let's operate on the assumption of a transition. So happy to work with you. Mr. Leahy will be in touch with you, and there's some job training programs that exist now, but I'm not sure if there are very many that are dealing specifically with this question of a transition to cleaner and greener cars in our area. So you're going to be another one like Mike here, sort of Exhibit A, and we'll walk through the system for you.
Okay, we really want to transition to being green, but we just need access to it, so.
Right.
Yeah, and I have some business cards over there. Thank you.
A good entrepreneur, but the main thing for you is getting people who are trained, who know how to work with EVs when, somebody shows up and says, I got a problem. Is that the heart of it?
Yeah.
Federal job training money should be possible for youth on the issue you have raised, and I'm going to work on it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the reason I feel so strongly is I wrote this law. It really took close to 8 years, and it was based on the fact people weren't going to do a cap and trade bill, and weren't going to do a carbon tax bill. And I said, I'm sitting on these billions of dollars in tax incentives, and a lot of them are from the dark ages. Let's reform them and use them for the clean energy tax credits. And my colleagues said yes, and it may be the most important thing I've ever been involved with.
All right. So then we'll bring that to you.
Hi, Senator. My name is Santaj Jacqui, owner of a salon called All Things Beauty by Santaj Jacqui. I've been a hairstylist for 17 years and the owner of the salon for 1 year.
Yes.
I'm also a micro manufacturer and CEO of Love Some Hair Care Products, and I'm a distributor.
When do you sleep?
It's hard work. It is hard work. I also distribute for Coffee Creek Correctional Facility, and I've had this business for 2 years.
Your products are used in the correction system?
Yes, sir.
Good on you. How'd you get that contract?
Through one of my clients.
Nice.
One of my clients.
One of your clients basically told the people on the correction side and the people who were running it and stuff, hey, here's somebody who runs the salon doing a really good job, and we'd like her to have a chance to offer products, and you did, and you got the contract.
Basically, they came out and looked at all my products and bought one of everything and then took it back and researched everything to make sure stuff is natural, the inmates are not able to get high off of things and things like that, and it cleared everything. And then they came back to me, and I've been selling to them for
So they reviewed it A to Z and said you passed?
Yes.
You know what's amazing about a story like this? We've got all this technology, and we're going to constantly use it, and yet the first thing, we said is, let's do some getting the word out on tech, but also let's use word of mouth too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, and so my products are known for its all natural ingredients and nourishes the hair and scalp. And it's also especially formulated for kinky, coily, curly textured hair. Even though any hair texture can use it, specifically formulated for that. And my question is, how do we grow manufacturing opportunities in Portland, including technical support and funding pathways and opportunities to grow to scale?
Yeah. So what I try to do in my job is to kind of put on a set of blinders and say, what can we do particularly to grow manufacturing in Oregon? So you may have seen that I've been leading this big push to get us back increasing semiconductor opportunities. And I was able to get billions of dollars for investment tax credits because out at Intel and all those places, it's great that they're doing the research, but we also want to have the manufacturing capacity. So I try to kind of look at all the opportunities to try to make it more attractive to do business in the United States. So I'm trying to change the tax laws. Right now, if you can believe it, if a big drug company sells most of its products in the United States, for tax purposes, they can book their profits in a tax haven overseas. Okay? They sell it in the United States, they make their dough off everybody in this room, they book the profits overseas. So I'm trying to change that. And let's work with you to tap some of the manufacturing kind of opportunities. Isn't there an association of products I remember reading, are you all, for purposes of the food and drug law, are you all classified as a cosmetic? Under
yes.
food and drug?
Yeah.
There is an association for your products. Tam, if you'll look at that, it's a big association. Let's try and get them
That'll be amazing.
interested in you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, it's huge because the food, drug, and cosmetic law was passed decades ago, but it was long before organics and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And good on you for showing so much ingenuity to go out and
Thank you.
make your sale with the corrections.
Thank you.
Good on you.
Malik.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? I'm Malik Hopkins.
These are the expensive seats up there. Yes, sir.
I'm Malik Hopkins. I run a landscape business. We've been in business since basically the pandemic started, and I figured I might as well do something for myself instead of going through all what everybody else got to do. So basically, my first question, you guys all asked all my questions I wanted to ask, so I just wanted to say, we go a lot of different properties, and there's elderly people that don't get their property done or anything like that. Is there like a 1-800 number or some place that people can reach out to help these people? Because most of the time we end up just going in and helping them out without anything. Is there any kind of funding that from the state or anything like that?
This kind of gets us back to the procurement side. So it's when you start talking about landscapes and stuff. So I was looking, because I was in Salem having town meetings, and every bit of the Capitol grounds is manicured perfectly. That is a government contract, probably. So we want to give people an opportunity at that. Now, if we're talking about Mabel Jones out, in the community, and she's a widow lady and she needs her yard mowed, nobody's really thought about how to do that. But one of the things I've been playing around with, because I was director of the senior citizens for a number of years, is whether we could have senior citizen centers do a little bit to get information about, who's available. You got a roof situation, you got a yard situation, who will be good and, do a good job for you and reasonably priced and won't rip you off. I don't have the answer to it, but I've been kind of playing around with my head for services for seniors.
Yeah, because they definitely need it. I mean, if you go down the street here, you'll see all be 4 or 5, the whole block will look nice, and then there would just be one house.
It'll be the elderly.
Yeah, and they don't have anybody there to help them. They barely can feed themselves, so how are they gonna go out and, manicure their yard?
We're busy trying to change the institutions to reflect all this population change. I got the Medicare program, which used to be, mostly if you had a broken ankle, you had like an acute injury, that was Medicare Part A. We got maybe a couple seniors here that know about that. That's not Medicare today. Today, Medicare is cancer, diabetes, heart disease, strokes, chronic conditions. And we really need to figure out ways to change the service system. And I'd be very interested in working with you. This is my roots, is working with the elderly. And you can almost set your clock by it. Is on a block, you'll have a few young people, you'll have a few seniors, and those young people have husky, relatives, and they're out mowing away. And you just know, as sure as the night follows the day, that the elderly woman on the corner doesn't have anybody, and if she tried to run the lawnmower, who knows what would happen. So I'd be interested in following up. I think we could start getting information out through the senior citizen centers. Why don't you ask them, Grace?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Hopkins will be the inspiration for this. I don't have the answer, but I do know that as it relates to government contracting, which was the point we made earlier, people like you should be able to bid for contracts on, government buildings. And last time I looked, which was 2 days ago, they're doing a lot of lawn mowing in Salem.
Yeah, he presents a good idea too, Ron. He opens up the door on another pathway that's for elderly assistance that I didn't quite see, but I can see it now. It's a neat idea.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. Just got to figure out who would be a hub for good, safe information. And it strikes me that the senior citizens facilities, where they have the meals and everything, they could start putting information out and stuff like that.
Meals on Wheels.
Meals on Wheels.
All that, those flyers and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I was on the board on Meals on Wheels back in the day, so I can call them up too.
Yeah.
Good.
Wonderful. Senator, welcome. My name is Malcolm Ricks. I am the 50% owner of Safe Transportation and my brother's keeper. Safe Transportation has been around for 26 years. We transport autistic children, adults that are development delayed, dialysis patients, secure transportation, which is impacted by Bill 1740, was it? How do I get some state or federal assistance to work with the locals? So one of the biggest challenges we have right now are all of the different regulations and background checks and changes from the feds, the state, and then the county for what secure transportation is. We have a challenge there that we'd just like to see it pretty much even across the board. I see challenges with larger companies that operate a little bit differently. Cost and I, we both do NEMT transportation.
So who are you transporting? Because some of the people I thought you were transporting get assistance with federal funds. Is that true?
That is correct.
Would that be disabled folks?
Students get those supports. My Medicaid people get those supports.
Medicaid.
My DHS clients get those supports.
Got it.
I touch a lot of places. I see my future being an ambulance company because we are being pushed out of the transportation market by the TNCs. But that's a whole different issue that I'm confident you're going to direct somebody to talk to me about.
Let's walk through this a little bit.
All right.
How many people are there like you in America who do what you're doing?
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I can find
30, 10. One of the things I've been interested in is the idea, because you've got these federal, state, and local requirements. What you really want is one occupational license. And you want to be able to say, this was something that was carefully reviewed and vetted by people at the various levels of government, people in the profession. But it's going to be a simplified system once you get to it. Now, I assume right now you deal with somebody on the disability side, somebody on the kids side.
Oh, yes.
How many different agencies do you deal with?
We've got 30 plus contracts, so there are quite a few.
30 plus, how many of them are government contracts?
They all are.
Okay. Well, obviously from the seat of my pants, it would be malpractice for me to say, let's do the following when you're talking about 30 different government agencies. But I'm very interested in this licensing issue. For example, when we were debating President Obama's Affordable Care Act, he had me in the White House on the third day, his presidency, just he and I talking in the Oval Office. But you've been doing health care, and I said, one of the things I've said is we've got to simplify these systems. They're too, complicated. And he smiled and he said, yeah, you figure it out. Go ahead. I said, no, I'm not. This bill isn't going to be called Wyden Care, sir. It's going to be called Obamacare, which is what it was. And I'm still, like, for example, on some of these issues like therapy and various other things where the state licenses, why can't we say that if you have a valid license here, there, and there, once you have a valid license, you're in? So that people like you would not be walking through 30 licenses. So this is easier said than done. But if you're as patient as it appears you are, because you waited the whole meeting to say this, let's go to work on it.
All right. Otherwise, I'd have been in your car with you. But I'm going to share a situation.
I'm very interested in this streamlined licensing thing, because it shouldn't be bureaucratic torture when you're trying, like you say, to do the right thing. And you got kids and you got disabled folks. I thought you were going to tell me you had to deal with 4 government agencies, which would have sounded like a lot. But
that would have been easy.
This gentleman just said he was dealing with 30 government agencies. Yikes.
I'll share the situation. I haven't even gotten around to my question. But I have an individual that works for us. She can transport for DHS. She was trafficked as a child, as a minor.
You're talking federal Homeland Security?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
She can transport because she was trafficked as a minor. But there are certain contracts she cannot work for. You qualify here, but you don't there, and this is from something when she was a minor. That needs to be taken a look at. As I keep going,
Homeland Security is in a world unto itself. So if they're one of your 30, that alone would
and they're one of the easier ones to deal with. I also own My Brother's Keeper, which is a re-entry service. The reason being, I have people that I've had to say no to for so many long years on not being employed, and My Brother's Keeper is only 2 years old, but it's the one that goes around with Metro cleaning up the homeless camps. How can I get funding for training? Because this is a re-entry opportunity to train people to get into, I don't know, they might want to drive an 18-wheeler at some point in their life, which is a pretty much solid income.
Well, you know, we did have this in the first legislation, and apparently the results are very good in the Recovery Act. We had a model project to let 18-year-olds who've been carefully vetted drive truck, and the results apparently have been pretty good. So I was thinking about it already because of our friend in the auto business. When we look at job training, maybe her business and yours are kind of two examples of what we ought to be looking at.
Gotcha.
Good.
And for those small businesses, $5 million and below, that missed out on PPP for some reason, what direction can you point them in?
Well, I think that goes back to our friend there, back of you on the table. You know, we're now looking at a different kind of landscape. I think the SBA is clearly one of the areas that I'm going to be looking at for the loan issue. Also, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is the Commerce Department has set up a minority office. So we're going to have several agencies that we talked about, but it's a different day. We're not going with employee retention tax credit, which I liked very much before.
Where people confused.
Right. People were very confused about it. So I think SBA and the bipartisan infrastructure bill are our first two bets today, and several people asked about the federal, state, and local laws as it relates to loans for various things. That's how it started. Okay. Let's do this. After the better part of an hour, I think it is pretty clear that I do not have the answers to everything. Okay? Be happy to admit it. My wife will call up sometimes at 11 o'clock in the morning and said, I saw how you voted at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you sure blew that one, fella. Big mistake. So I don't have all the answers. But I think today we started building on what we did when Senator Merkley and I got the $750,000 for the Business Association. We said, and this was your point, ma'am, community deserves more than crumbs. And so I just want to make, this pledge per my basketball background. I'm going to come to play every single day as it relates to the needs of small businesses. And in the language of politics and particularly sports, there's going to be no load management for me. I'm going to be showing up, and we're going to go to work every single day to address these kinds of issues. And I just appreciate everybody coming out. And this is kind of not an official kind of meeting, but I'm going to make a motion that this discussion be continued. And I hear no objection, so it is passed. We are going to continue this discussion. Big thanks, and I will just leave you with this. This is what Dr. King wanted us to do. There hadn't been a bad question in the House, folks. Not a single. Oh, well then let's let you wrap it up.
Okay. My name is Kimberly Horner. I am the Executive Director for the Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives, PCRI. I started in 2019. We are the affordable housing provider and the largest Black-led affordable housing provider probably in Oregon. My question to you, as both a developer and of affordable housing, and we also own commercial properties. This is an example of one of our properties. I know coming in from 2019, when I started with an organization that's been around for almost 30 years now, that when I see our commercial properties are suffering from what I call functional obsolescence. I have a strong background in economic development and redevelopment from my former career. So I'm happy to hear that there's more investment coming into the Seoul district and the business districts, but we also need investments for preservation of commercial properties, and I would like to see that we can earmark money specifically for Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard for commercial properties, because we're bringing in all of these families. We're building affordable housing on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Our most recent completion is King Plus Parks. It's 70 units of affordable housing, and Beatrice Morrow building that's 80 units of affordable housing. We have families that we're moving in, but as you can see, there's a lot of divestment on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, so we need to reactivate this boulevard with more commercial activity to support these families that are here. I'd also like to suggest that, as you heard many of the people in the audience say, there is a lack of people in the construction trade. And when we build affordable housing, it puts approximately $460 million back into the economy as we develop our Pathway 1000, which is 200 units of rental housing, and we're trying to build another 800 units of home ownership properties. We're doing this in connection with the Seoul District and many other partners. What we need is there's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, that people talk about all the time, but we need STEM plus C, and that C stands for construction. We need to get in very early in the school districts to get people very interested in construction trades, because that's one of the reasons why the whole industry is suffering, because we cannot get people to work quickly enough in the construction trades. Once these units are built, we need people who can do maintenance, property management, things of that nature, and some of these things fall under the construction trade. So
Have you all made an effort to work with the school districts to get your people into the schools? Because I'm going to make a big push on this. I believe, for example, the desperate need for healthcare workers can be partially addressed by getting people who work in healthcare to go into the schools and use these simulated settings. Senator Merkley and I got $500,000 for Lane Community College to do a simulated training program, and that's what it means, is that they have created in the college these simulated settings for people being trained to deal with patients. And I will never forget it. I was just there a couple of days ago. A young woman said to me, "Senator, or Chairman, whatever they call you back there, I love this simulated training. If I don't get it here in this building, they'll tell me to try it out on real patients, and I'd much rather get it in here." So I hope, and I'd be happy to work with you, that you're getting the schools, the Portland Public Schools and others, to let you get your programs in there and start getting people interested early.
we have reached out to Portland Community College Cascade campus right before the pandemic, so they were able to come into our affordable housing units and do what I call an in-service and talk to people about the different trades in the construction arena. But we do, that's the other piece, a lot of our residents suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and there are not enough healthcare workers to address this need. One of our board chair is Eric Hunter with Care Oregon, and we all understand that there needs to be a lot more wraparound services provided to these families living in Northeast Portland. So we'd appreciate if there could be some special consideration made for a couple of things. One, like I said,
the preservation that you were talking about, not historical preservation, this is practical preservation to keep the buildings in shape.
Practical preservation to keep the buildings in shape.
You may be able to get some help on the two areas you mentioned on payroll depreciation.
Okay. And if we could even push through more expedient way, technology related to construction like 3D printing is something that I'd like to see if we can get going with homeownership units. So STEM C and 3D printing and additional investment on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Grace will call you up on all three.
Thank you.
Hey.
Let me tell you what we announced yesterday, because it relates to your housing, push. I've been the Senate's champion of the low-income housing tax credit called LIHTC. I announced yesterday in Eugene that I'm going to be proposing MIHTC, middle-income housing tax credit. So nurses and firefighters and teachers, it's gotten so bad that the schools desperately need teachers, like I heard yesterday down the valley, and they can't get teachers because there's no place for them to get a roof over their head or a floor under their feet. So we'll follow up with you on that. Look, it's been a terrific meeting. I've got 5 pages full of notes here. Grace has got it. Tim's got it. Here's my suggestion. My suggestion is that we start working on the subjects that we were talking about quite some time ago with payroll taxes and the like. And we'll have these discussions on an ongoing basis. This will be the first and not the last, okay?
Thank you.
Be continued, everybody. Big thanks.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate you. Senator Wyden, you guys. Senator Wyden.
It's free. It's free. It's free. It's free. It's free. It's free. It's free.